HOA, tries to ban my security cameras, so I install even more. I never wanted trouble with our HOA. When my wife and I bought our home 2 years ago in the Oak Grove community, I actually read through all the bylaws and tried to follow the rules. The house was perfect for us, nice neighborhood, good schools nearby for our kids, and most importantly, it felt safe. That feeling of security was exactly why I installed security cameras in the first place. It started pretty normally. After a few package thefts in the neighborhood, I decided to put up a Ring doorbell camera and 2 exterior cameras, one covering our driveway and one watching the backyard. Nothing too crazy, just basic home security that lots of people have these days. I even checked the HOA bylaws first and found nothing prohibiting security cameras. For 6 months, everything was fine. The cameras actually helped catch a porch pirate targeting our street, and several neighbors thanked me for providing the footage to police. But then the HOA president's teenage son got caught on my driveway camera trying to key my car one night. I had no idea why he'd do this, but the footage clearly showed him scratching a long line down my driver's side door at 2 a.m. When I showed the video to his father, the HOA president, I expected him to be mortified and offer to pay for the damage. Instead, he got defensive and angry. "How dare you spy on my family?" he shouted, his face turning red. "Those cameras are an invasion of privacy. They need to come down immediately." I tried explaining calmly that the cameras only covered my own property and had just caught his son committing a crime. "That's not the point," he snapped. "The HOA board will be discussing this at our next meeting. Expect to hear from us soon." Sure enough, a week later I got an official notice claiming my security cameras violated HOA rules about privacy and aesthetic concerns. They demanded I remove all cameras within 7 days or face daily fines of $100. I wrote back pointing out there was nothing in the bylaws prohibiting cameras. Their response? They simply created a new rule banning all visible security cameras and surveillance equipment, effective immediately. When I protested this clearly targeted rule change, the HOA president just smirked. "Rules are rules," he said. "Take them down or pay the fines. Your choice." That's when I decided to fight back. I contacted a lawyer who specialized in HOA disputes. He confirmed they couldn't retroactively ban my existing cameras without a proper amendment process and homeowner vote. He also suggested I document everything, since this seemed like a personal vendetta. So instead of removing my cameras, I added more, all carefully positioned to only record my own property. I installed cameras covering every possible angle, hardwired them all to prevent tampering, and added infrared capabilities for night recording. The HOA president was livid when he saw the new additions. "This is your final warning," he snarled, jabbing his finger at me. "Remove all cameras by Friday or we'll fine you into bankruptcy." I stood my ground. Everything I've done is legal and within my rights. The cameras stay. The fines started piling up, $100 per day per camera. I refused to pay, documenting each invalid fine. But then things got really interesting. My new cameras started catching HOA board members doing some very suspicious things late at night. The treasurer was recorded removing boxes of documents from the clubhouse at 1 a.m. The vice president and his buddy, the maintenance contractor, were filmed having a shifty-looking exchange of envelopes in the parking lot. And most damning of all, my cameras caught the president's son vandalizing 3 other homes in the neighborhood. I quietly gathered all this footage, along with records of the bogus fines and harassment. When the total fines hit $10,000, the HOA tried to put a lien on my house. That's when I sprung my trap. At the next HOA meeting, I came prepared with a full presentation. "Before we discuss the lien," I said calmly, "I have some interesting security footage to share." The color drained from the board members' faces as I played clip after clip. The illegal document removal, the suspicious envelope exchanges, the vandalism spree. "This is outrageous," the president sputtered. "Turn that off immediately." "Oh, there's more," I continued. I've already provided copies of everything to the police and FBI. Turns out they're very interested in potential HOA fraud and corruption. You could have heard a pin drop in that room. Other homeowners were whispering and pointing at the board members, who looked like they might be sick. Additionally, I added, my lawyer has prepared a lawsuit against the HOA for harassment and selective enforcement. We can either handle this reasonably, or we can let the authorities and courts sort it all out. Your choice. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. The FBI investigation revealed the board had been embezzling HOA funds for years through fake maintenance contracts and inflated expenses. They'd stolen over $200,000 from our community. The president's son was charged with multiple counts of vandalism, and 3 board members ended up facing federal fraud charges. The illegal camera ban and fines were immediately rescinded. A new HOA board was elected, and they actually thanked me for exposing the corruption. They even passed a resolution specifically allowing security cameras, as long as they only recorded public areas and the owner's private property. These days, things are much better in our community. The new board is transparent and honest. My cameras still keep watch, but now neighbors appreciate the extra security they provide. And wouldn't you know it, we haven't had a single package theft or vandalism incident since the story came out. I did end up having to testify at the federal trial of the former board members. It was satisfying watching them try to explain away their actions to the jury. In the end, justice prevailed. They were convicted on multiple counts and ordered to repay everything they stole. The former president's son got juvenile probation and had to personally apologize to everyone whose property he vandalized. He actually seemed genuinely remorseful, admitting he'd only done it because his father encouraged him to target people who opposed the HOA board. The whole experience taught me a valuable lesson about standing up for what's right, even when facing intense pressure to back down. Those cameras didn't just protect my property, they exposed years of corruption and ultimately made our whole community safer and better managed. Oh, and I still have all my security cameras. In fact, I added a few more just to be safe. But these days, the only things they record are delivery drivers, friendly neighbors, and the occasional wandering cat. Just the way it should be. Edit. Thank you for all the supportive comments. To answer some common questions. 1. Yes, criminal cases are still ongoing. 2 board members took plea deals, but the president is fighting the charges. 2. Our new HOA board is amazing. They actually understand their proper role and don't abuse power. 3. Several other communities in our area have reached out for advice on preventing HOA corruption. Transparency and security cameras help. 4. My lawyer says I can't share the actual security footage while cases are pending, but trust me, it's pretty damning stuff. 5. Former president's son seems to be doing better with counseling and mentorship. Hope he learned his lesson. Update, HOA. Camera story, the justice system actually worked. Wow, I can't believe it's been 6 months since my original post. So much has happened that I wanted to give everyone a proper update. Grab some popcorn because this gets wild. First, the criminal cases finally wrapped up last week. Remember how I mentioned 2 board members took plea deals? Well, it turns out they had even more dirt to share. The FBI investigation revealed our HOA wasn't the only one they'd been scamming. The former treasurer had been running the same embezzlement scheme in 3 other communities. The way it worked was pretty clever but totally illegal. They'd create fake maintenance companies, award themselves inflated contracts, then split the money between board members. They also had a side racket going where they'd selectively enforce rules and collect fines, but those fines never made it into HOA accounts. The total stolen from all communities was over $800,000. The former HOA president tried claiming he knew nothing about it, but my security footage proved otherwise. Remember those late-night envelope exchanges I caught on camera? Turns out they were literally dividing up cash from their latest scam. The FBI forensic team found his fingerprints all over the stolen documents, too. His trial was actually pretty dramatic. His lawyer tried arguing the security cameras were illegal and the footage shouldn't be admissible. The judge shut that down fast. "Let me get this straight," she said. "Your client created an illegal rule specifically to prevent the very cameras that caught him committing crimes. That's not helping your case." The prosecution had a field day with the footage. They showed clip after clip of suspicious late-night meetings, document removal, and the president instructing his son which houses to vandalize. The jury took less than 2 hours to find him guilty on all counts. Sentencing was last Tuesday. The president got 8 years in federal prison, plus had to repay his share of stolen funds. The treasurer got 6 years since he cooperated. The vice president got 5 years, and the maintenance contractor got 3 years. They're all banned from serving on any HOA board or handling community funds ever again. But here's where it gets even better. During sentencing, the judge ordered a full audit of every HOA these guys had been involved with for the past decade. Turns out they'd been running variations of this scam for years. The FBI is now investigating at least 6 other communities they managed. As for the president's son, his story actually has a positive twist. After getting caught, he went through intensive counseling and really turned himself around. He wrote sincere apology letters to everyone he'd vandalized, and even started a youth program warning kids about getting pressured into criminal behavior by family members. He came to see me personally last month. "I know I can't undo what I did," he said, looking genuinely remorseful. "But I want you to know that your cameras didn't just catch me, they saved me. If I hadn't been stopped, I probably would have kept going down that path." I appreciated his honesty and told him so. He's heading to college next fall and seems to be making better choices now. The impact on our community has been huge. Our new HOA board, elected after the scandal, has implemented tons of reforms. All financial records are now publicly accessible online. Multiple board members must approve any contracts over $1,000. Security cameras are explicitly allowed and encouraged. All rule changes require a community vote. Monthly financial audits by an independent firm. Term limits for board members. Zero tolerance for selective enforcement. Property values have actually gone up since the scandal broke. Turns out, having a reputation for rooting out corruption and maintaining transparency is good for home sales. Who knew? We've also become something of a model for HOA reform. I've been invited to speak at several community management conferences about preventing fraud and abuse of power. My security camera setup is now used as an example of how technology can help maintain accountability. The FBI actually commended our community for cooperating with their investigation. The lead agent told me those cameras provided some of the best evidence they'd ever had in an HOA fraud case. They're using our story in their training materials about investigating white-collar crime. Remember all those bogus fines they tried to hit me with over the cameras? The new board not only canceled them, but used some of the recovered stolen funds to upgrade security throughout the neighborhood. We now have cameras at all entrances and in common areas, with strict guidelines about privacy and proper use. My lawyer ended up filing a civil suit against the former board members personally, not the HOA itself, for harassment and attempted extortion over the camera ban. Rather than drag it out, their lawyers quickly offered to settle. I donated most of the settlement money to a legal defense fund for other homeowners fighting corrupt HOAs. The former president's wife tried to stay in the neighborhood after he went to prison, but eventually sold their house and moved away. Nobody was sad to see her go, especially after we found out she'd known about the corruption all along and helped cover it up. The FBI is still investigating her potential involvement. Some karma-worthy details I couldn't share before. During the investigation, they found records showing the former board had been keeping a troublemaker list of homeowners who questioned their authority. They had actually planned to use selective enforcement to drive out anyone who opposed them. My cameras exposed their scheme before they could really get started. One of the funniest moments came during the FBI raid of the president's house. Apparently, he tried flushing documents down the toilet when agents showed up. His plumbing backed up and flooded his basement, where he'd hidden even more evidence in a waterproof safe that turned out to not be so waterproof. The agent said they'd never seen someone's crimes literally float to the surface before. The maintenance contractor tried claiming all his late-night meetings were emergency repairs. The prosecution showed footage of him clearly passing envelopes of cash while doing zero actual maintenance. His own lawyer facepalmed during that testimony. We also discovered why they targeted me specifically with the camera ban. They'd been planning their biggest scam yet, skimming money from a major road repair project. My house was near where they planned to do the fake work, and they worried my cameras would expose them. Talk about dodging a bullet. The recovered money has been put to good use. Besides upgrading community security, we've repaved roads properly, with legitimate contractors, renovated the community center, added a playground, started a reserve fund for future maintenance, reduced monthly HOA fees by 20%. One unexpected positive outcome. Our community has gotten much closer through all this. Neighbors who never spoke before now look out for each other. We have regular community meetings that people actually want to attend. There's a real sense that we're all in this together. My wife likes to joke that my camera obsession saved the neighborhood. She's not wrong, though I did have to promise not to add any more cameras to our house. The current setup is more than enough. The former board members are appealing their convictions, but their lawyers admit it's a long shot. The evidence is just too solid. Meanwhile, 3 other HOAs have already uncovered similar fraud schemes after implementing our transparency reforms. The domino effect continues. Some lessons learned from all this. Document everything. 2. Know your rights and stand your ground. 3. Corrupt people hate cameras. 4. Community involvement matters. 5. Karma eventually catches up. Final thoughts. While this whole experience was stressful, I'm glad it happened. Our community is stronger, safer, and better managed as a result. The cameras that caused so much drama ended up exposing serious crimes and preventing even worse ones. Sometimes doing the right thing pays off in ways you never expect. Oh, and one last bit of sweet justice. Remember how they tried to put a lien on my house over those fake camera fines? The FBI found evidence they'd done that to other homeowners too. Now they're facing additional charges for filing fraudulent liens. The hits just keep coming. Thanks again for all the support on my original post. I'll update again if anything major happens with the appeals or other investigations. But for now, I'm just enjoying living in a community where the HOA actually serves its members instead of stealing from them. Edit. Holy cow, this blew up. Thanks for all the awards and supportive messages. To answer some common questions. 1. Yes, I still have all the cameras, plus the new community ones. 2. FBI investigation of other HOAs is ongoing, more arrests expected. 3. Total recovered so far. About $650,000 of the $800,000 stolen. 4. Former president's wife was just indicted last week, more to come on that. 5. Several states are now looking at HOA reform laws based on this case. Who knew my simple security cameras would end up changing HOA laws? Life is weird sometimes. The next one is titled, Are You Contagious? About a year and a half ago, I, female 40, was diagnosed with ocular shingles. I don't recommend. Part of the healing process is the scabbing over of the blisters, which were present on my eyelid, eyebrow, and forehead on one side. In accordance with medical direction, I was not contagious once the scabbing started, and it was about 5 days after the onset of scabbing when the fateful encounter occurred. I woke up that morning like any other morning except for the hideous scabbing, makeup not recommended. I could not wear a baseball cap to hide face since the scabs were painful to the touch, and you don't want to touch them because of the threat of scarring if they come off too soon. So I put a hoodie on and hoped that would make me not stand out so much. I kept my head down while shopping in my local grocery store and avoided eye contact and communication. As I'm at the self-checkout line, I hear a voice from behind me yell my name. I turned around so confused that someone recognized me and realized it was my mom's cousin, female 65, who was the checker on the first check stand next to the self-checkout. Before I could even say hi, she blurts out loudly, in front of 10 other people checking out, and about 10 more people in line, "I am surprised to see you here. Aren't you contagious?" I was mortified but mostly annoyed because I had just started ringing up my cart. I respond, "It's not contagious, thanks for your concern," and I turned back around, ignoring whatever she said after. This woman is known for having zero filter and sticks her nose in other people's business on the regular. So then I had people leaving their self-checkouts before they are done and just walking out and leaving their food to avoid me. Other people stared and shook their heads. I finished ringing myself up and left. Fast forward to yesterday. I recently became friends with someone who works with her, and I saw him last night. I decided to tell him a juicy little bit of knowledge that she is embarrassed about and has always been insecure about. She had to have a skin graft on her shin years ago, and they used cadaver foreskin. She used to complain about it because hair never grows on that patch, lol, free laser. Her new name is Dick Shin now, and when he asks her about it, he's going to ask if they tested it for STDs, and if she is contagious. It's only fair.